Lucifer and all his minions! Who else, Robard? What are you doing up so late, Divish? At your age, you need a good night's sleep. Is his lordship there with you? It was a bit of a scramble, all right. Believe it or not, this tempest is a godsend for me and my men. As my old granddad used to say, better a sore throat than a slit throat. Thank God. Messenger? He's alive? He made it to you? Thank God for this tempest. When it began, Sigismund's Tatars crawled into their holes and left the storming of the castle for more clement weather. No. When Sigismund finds the castle empty tomorrow, he might come looking for us. We'd only be exposing you to danger. Without me and my men, he has no call to attack you. We'll march to Ratai. It's only a short way, and there we'll have a better chance of defense and enough room for all of these people. Thanks. You too. If Sigismund should come, better bend your knee, Divish. There's no point dying in a battle that's futile. Is that boy still with you? We were able to sneak out right under their noses. The Lord be praised. We wouldn't have stood a chance against them. Don't even think of going back there, you donkey. Are you tired of living? Are you mad? What do you want there? You have courage, lad. That I can't deny. I am sorry about what happened. Would you care to join us? Quiet! I'm sorry about your father, but getting killed as well won't help him. Divish, make sure that lad doesn't budge from Talmberg until things quieten down. I've seen you've grown a thick skin since your tribulation, sir, but thank you. We'll meet again when circumstances are more favorable. Farewell. I will, and good luck to you and your people too. These are dark times. Move out!
Henry, who disappeared after I clearly ordered him to remain at Talmberg. Wait, it's Henry! And it wasn't just your own life you nearly threw away. So Robard and his men risked theirs to save you. Girl, if you're so concerned, father, maybe you should save the innocent souls of these fine Christians yourself. Go to Skalitz and consecrate their graves. I assure you, if you're killed by bandits, your soul will soar straight to heaven, as long as someone buries you in consecrated ground first. Be that as it may. Why have you come here? Takes after his father, I suppose. Lad, I've lost a castle, a village, silver mines, and a good half of my subjects. Why would I miss one sword? Sword? My sword hangs here at my side. He's no fool. Henry, you have courage, but you need training, arms, a horse. Or do you mean to beat this thief at dice? I understand. I'd feel the same way. But prudence is the better part of valor, and a dead man keeps no promises. He isn't a peasant, father, he's a blacksmith, and recent events have left me in need of his skills. Oh, I probably will. I'm doing this for your father, lad. Don't disappoint me. Your father was a remarkable man, and your mother, she was remarkable too. They deserved a Christian burial. Did you manage that at least? What you say is certainly true. Except for fleeing the enemy. You would have run as well. Believe me. Henry's earned some punishment, but how do you punish someone who's already lost everything, Besides, that was a fine sword that his father made. If he thinks he can get it back, I won't turn it down. Courage and blind obedience are good qualities for a soldier, but a wise man also appreciates loyalty, perseverance, and determination. So, you'd like to enter my service. Now that I think about it, Sir Hanush, the boy needs training and experience, and you need spear carriers. Don't forget, Henry. Don't disappoint me. It might. In any event, it will prove valuable experience.
Christ. Are you all right? Oh, we have men enough for sword-wielding. The good Lord is harder to come by.
Someone bring water. Breathe, man. You'll be all right. Who's coming? We'd be finished, just as Toth has been planning. Gentlemen, Toth's reinforcements are about to descend on us. We don't know exactly, but there are many, and they will probably be here by dawn. The whole land is in chaos. It's a wonder we can find out anything at all. Not this time, though. Robard, how do you think the weather will be tomorrow? You will wait until they charge us, and then strike them from the rear, here and here. If we succeed, we'll have it over and done with before they notice anything in Talmberg. Here. We'll make a stand here, I and Radzig's men. We will hold out. What? This boy?
Don't start, Hanush. Nothing yet. Henry! Well, I see that you haven't been idle, and we'll certainly need to have a talk later, but not quite so publicly. It looks like you have plenty to tell us. What happened? Henry, I must say I'm a little confused. Well, that's not exactly how the law works. True enough. Get a good meal inside you and get those wounds tended to. You look wretched. No more, my lord. I'm your father. And if you need equipment or armor, tell Bernard. He'll give you what you need. Good. Now go to Divish as quickly as you can. Son, later we'll have time to talk about it. What do you say? I swear, Hal, I plan to tell you. I'm sorry Istvan, of all people, beat me to it. But now we have more urgent matters to deal with. We did. Never. We wouldn't dream of starting without you. Fortunately, my son here showed immense daring and made his way into the lion's den to spy on them. So, I believe we have a plan. Robard will take 10 men and sneak to the rear of the fortifications. There's an entry point, but you must remain hidden. The rest of us will launch a frontal assault, rain burning arrows on them, and then attack. That shouldn't be too hard. They'll have other things to worry about. God be with you, my friends. At that point, Robard and his squad will strike from the rear. I might not have put it as eloquently as you, Hanush, but I've been driven out of my own castle, so I'm hardly going to disagree. Just as well you have another castle at the other end of town, eh? At any rate, I'm beholden to you, Sir Hans, and to you, Sir Hanush. You aren't alone, Father. I believe Sigismund's original intention was to persuade Wenceslas to accept the imperial crown and to leave the rule of Bohemia to him. To give him his due, I don't think he expected the lords of this country to stand behind the king. But thanks to him, we're tearing ourselves apart, and now he has to get things under control. I can't deny the king neglected affairs of state for other pursuits. There is a need for order in the land, but I don't think the lords who sided with Sigismund realized just what Hungarian order looks like. That's why he attacked us. He was after our silver.
Just so, Master Conrad. I hear you have some accounts to settle with him.
Be assured we shall not make the same mistake here. We do not intend to starve them into submission, but to break down the gate.
I see. But we don't have black powder in these parts. Nor cannon. I'm still hoping that Toth will see sense and parley with us.
It does rather look that way, Hanush. It appears to be written by Toth, but it doesn't say to whom. It says everything is going according to plan, and the castle should soon be taken. Alongside hunting, drinking, and swordplay, you might find time for a little study, old man. In the courts of Prague, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can read nowadays. If you play your cards right, you might come out of this in one piece. Where is your lord? He was here yesterday, wasn't he? Where has he gone? What is he planning? He writes here about taking some castle. Which castle? That won't do us any good, Hanush. Even if we had 10 times the men, we couldn't beat through every thicket in the fiefdom. Come in. Don't be so modest, young Henry. You showed not only courage, but loyalty to your liege. That's why I'm taking you into my personal service. Tell us exactly what happened. My men at your disposal too, Hanush. You think he might still have my sword? No doubt you could use another swordsman, Captain. You took him down. On your own. You surprised me. He was a mountain of a man. Well done. Nice work. The thought did cross my mind. What did he tell you? This louse was just a pawn. Whoever engineered it was highly placed. They won't give up after one defeat. Anyway, we found a trunk full of coin down below. Someone was paying this gang very well. And there were some of Sigismund's barbarians among them. I don't think we've seen the last of this. If we'd taken him alive, the executioner might have gotten more out of him. Oh well, these things happen in the heat of battle. You're right, my boy. But first, we all need some rest. We'll meet later in the upper castle in Ratte and then decide what to do next. But come what may, you did a good job today. That comes as no surprise. Ah, Henry, I'm glad you're here. It seems like we'll have another task for you. Come and join us. Is it a lot of work to make such counterfeits, Master Tobias? So we are facing a foe who has almost limitless sources of coin. That's all we need. But they could just be brought in from somewhere else, could they not? Well, gentlemen, it's clear what we have to do. Interrogate that captive bandit, find out their numbers, and promptly cut off their supply of money. Otherwise, they'll soon have another encampment. Go to Merhoyed and question that captive. Find out where those brigands are hiding, how many there are, and what they're planning. And while you're at it, see if you can find some clues as to where this counterfeit coin is coming from. Good luck. We're counting on you. All of us. Come report to me as soon as you know anything. I'll be at the lookout point near Talmberg. Nothing against Bernard, Robard, or any of those others. But none of them could find out as much as you. At least not without beatings and torture. And that doesn't always work. You haven't disappointed me. Now go and find out who's behind everything, and then we'll deal with them. You're a godsend, lad. What is it? Life is one long series of problems to solve. The more you solve, the better a man you become. It's a hard question. I'm no theologian. But long ago I came to the conclusion that the only thing that makes sense is that it's all a trial. Tribulations spawn in life over and over again, and we must stand our ground and face them. So, I go to Sasso and solve this one. Just look at the pampered ones who have no concerns in life, like young Lord Capon, for instance. I shudder to think how he will rule when his time comes. Good luck, son. Greetings, friends. Fear not, Lord Toth is treating us like royalty. I'll go with him, Hanush. Let the Lady Stephanie have her freedom now. Don't worry, son. I trust Lord Toth's self-interest more than his word. He wouldn't be fool enough to harm me. Not half as glad as I am, Your Grace. To the north, but I would be careful, Sir Hans. I am. They treated me quite decently. Although they did steal my horse, so I'll have to go back on foot. Not by a long shot. It won't be over until we get this mess cleared up. Honor? If the word of honor of a nobleman could not be trusted, then he would never have agreed to the exchange. Would you rather we killed him? Even if it meant Lady Stephanie and I died too? What? That I was your father? Certainly. He was a great man. He took you as his own. And always kept an eye on you. Of that you can be sure. Then your father, Martin, came along and took care of both of you. You know how it is. We were young. It happened. And I couldn't marry a commoner. He told you nothing. Oddly enough, even though you don't have his blood, you're very like him. When he was around your age, he became bored of his trade and set out to see the world. He lived through many adventures, even fought in a war. Yes, in Poland, I believe. And I don't think he cared much for it. He spent some time in Prague, then settled in Kuttenberg, but it seems he quarrelled with someone there and finally ended up here. You know the rest. It was in your blood, I suppose. Those are noble intentions, son. But don't forget there are other things in this world that are worth living for. Well, I think we may yet have a chance to get it back. This business with Toth is not yet over, unfortunately. It's not my sword. It's yours. Ah, the sword. For a moment there it was so near, yet so far. Oh, well, it can't be helped. Those are things worth living for. Though I can't deny that swine who killed your mother must pay for what he did. Look around you. Blue skies overhead, green grass underfoot, beautiful girls. Good wine, a few good friends, and a fine steed under your backside. But it's better not to dwell too much on that, at the cost of those other things. On the subject of steeds, I think we'll have to ride like the Knights Templar. 2 up. One day I'll tell you how they got their seal. You can take the front. It's like I always imagined it would be, teaching my boy to ride. Although it would be better if you were a little smaller. And this is my son, Henry. I have to confess, my lord, that your answer surprises me a little. If I'm correctly informed, until recently you sided with your other cousin, Sigismund. So now Berghoff is on your side. Are we to assemble an army together with him and face Sigismund on the field of battle? The king's cousin? I wonder what he wants. I guess we'll find out soon enough. My word, it's all go today, isn't it? I wonder who this is. Young sir, the crown weighs heavy when there are duties to be performed, but to surrender it means giving up great privileges too. Who knows? Maybe he'd prefer hunting and consorting with bathhouse wenches to spending time with the Pope.
What kind of help, though? Sigismund has a massive army, and Rosenborg, Burghoff, and Prague are behind him. Do you have an army you could face him with?
Bringing order is one thing, but slaughtering and pillaging with a horde of barbarians quite another. What purpose does that serve?
And do you know, sir, what the true position of the League of Lords is?
True. Though a little risky. Why not? He's proven himself an able investigator, and he'll also be a good bodyguard if anything should happen.
That makes sense.
I wish you Godspeed.
Yes, Henry. Chief Engineer Fafar has been asking for someone reliable to assist him. In a manner of speaking, Master Fafar has, well, evil forebodings. I think he may want to send you to the Skalitz mines. Everything can be rebuilt with enough will and resources. Well, everything except a man. Where? Now that's a good question. He went to Sasau to deal with something there. Most likely at the inn. He ought to be somewhere at Perkstein unless he's gone off to deal with some problem or other. Look around. You're bound to run into him. Good luck, Hal. You'll get the details from Chief Engineer Fafar. For the time being, consider yourself his handyman. What is it, lad? They'll find the bodies and be more cautious, so we may have lost the element of surprise. On the other hand, there'll be fewer of them, and that's good news. I need you to go to Sir Divish in Talmberg and tell him to send Captain Robard and his men to our aid. There's not enough of us here in the camp. Never mind. You did a good job anyway, and you deserve a reward. But now we must get ready to set out as soon as possible and put an end to them. What are you still doing here? I thought it was vital for you to get to Neuhof.
I thought you wanted to go. You'd better hurry up then.
Aren't you supposed to be somewhere else? Well, that would be lovely. But knowing the king, he'll be too busy making concessions to worry about a trivial little thing like restoring order. Stolen and taken who knows where. Sigismund needs money for an army that size. It's obvious why he turned on us in Kuttenberg. The king's in no position to object. I wouldn't rely too much on Jobst. Did you know he once kidnapped the king himself? He and the League of Lords together. And just the year before he was plotting with Sigismund, but now suddenly he's an ally. Forgive me if I'm sceptical. Or it's just another ploy. Ill news, I'm afraid. They've razed and burned it. It won't be cheap to put right, if it can be done at all. And in times like these, it's just as likely to be razed all over again. That's a relief. Along with Sir Robard's men, we'll easily be able to handle it. Tell him to take a few men, maybe a dozen, and set out for Pribyslavitz. We'll meet up there and mount an attack together. Tell him to take half his men and march to Pribyslavitz. We'll meet there and mount an attack together. Tell him to take all his men. Leave only the bare minimum at the castle and march to Pribyslavitz. I'll take everyone but for 1 or 2 sentries. Hopefully together we'll have enough men to defeat them. Tell Sir Robard to bring all his men, leaving only a minimum guard at the castle, and to send a message to Sir Hanush to send his men too. I'll leave our camp almost empty as well. We'll need every man we can muster. Godwin? Aye, an intriguing fellow. He's the youngest son of one of the lords of Kuttenberg. He was sent to the university to become a priest, as is customary with the youngest son. But he didn't much care for it. So when he finished studying, instead of taking up his parish, he went roaming. I imagine he had a pretty adventurous life. And then one day he came back and settled down. Hanush would know more about him. I'm glad to see you, Captain Robard. I hope Henry's explained everything to you. We'll just have to find out, but I don't think we will until after a battle. If we don't deal with them now, who knows what they'll be capable of in a week or two. We'll approach from the south and storm them over the bridge. Form up! Forward march! Every man that comes with us will be lacking somewhere else. And I don't want bandits pillaging some other town because there's no one left to mount a defence. And if you could carry out some sabotage while you're in there, it would be invaluable. But don't take any unnecessary risks. I don't want to lose you. We really need to find out more. Could you go back there and try to discover anything that could help us in the assault? The more we know, the better. I was hoping they wouldn't be so organised. Earthworks and fortifications. That's quite a different matter from routing some rabble out of the woods. That sounds like Pribyslavitz. It used to belong to Sir Divish before Havelmedic attacked and torched it, and then imprisoned Divish. It's been left abandoned ever since. I don't have time now, Henry. Come and see me in the Knight's Hall at the Upper Castle. There's the man. Good work, Henry. Indeed. Normally I'd send for Captain Burner to beat it out of him, but then I told myself that if he's so keen to speak to you, I'd tell you to take a well-earned rest, but unfortunately I need one more thing from you. He's locked up in the tower. Bernard will give you the key. Jezek refuses to talk to us. The stubborn bastard's asking to see you. So it's worse than I thought. If this is true, we'll have to proceed with the utmost caution. So what have you learned?
The monastery? Really? No. If the church is truly involved, I have no authority.
True enough. Why don't I go and arrest King Sigismund of Luxembourg while I'm about it? He's committed a crime or two as well.
Quite. Especially when we're not sure which side it's on.
You'll have to manage somehow, my lad. Don't tell me there's an armed force amassing here and nobody knows anything. Go to Sasso and try to find them. You should return to Sasso and take a closer look at those recruiters. If they're going to attack, we must find out sooner than last time. Damn! So it looks like Pribyslavitz wasn't the end of it.
I'll have to think about it. It won't be an easy nut to crack. I'll have to consult with Hanush. And what of this Eric? Who is he? Whatever you do, be careful, Henry. And best not mention my name. It would attract unwelcome attention.
More likely on a side of their own. It depends what Sigismund has to offer them. But I know one thing for sure. No one will want to anger them. You're full of good cheer, aren't you? What exactly will happen? How many men has he got? That's easy to say, old friend. It seems Toth isn't taking any chances. We have to take them by surprise. It would be best to attack tomorrow night. We can't get ready any sooner. What? How's that? What is it, Henry? Is there something else? Henry, I want you to get yourself fixed up and then go straight to Sir Divish of Talmberg. Tell him to assemble all the able-bodied men he can and bring them to Radzig tomorrow evening. We'll wait for him there. And how secure is their camp? Undoubtedly. Why not? Sir Istvan Toth. And what did you find out? How did you find out? I don't want you to take any unnecessary risks. That's out of the question. It's too risky. How? All right then, Hal. Go there and find out how many of them there are, and what their plans are, whatever you can. But don't stick your neck out too far. I see. And who is he? Indeed. Well, Spishak, if you saved my son's life, I'm grateful to you. As a token of my gratitude, please accept this reward. Well, let's start with how well fortified they are. And the men. How many men strong are they? From what I've seen, it's best to attack from our direction. How does it look from the other sides? Now that is interesting. The ramparts are long. If there are as many of them as we think, they can hardly keep watch over the entire length. Attack with full force at the gate, and they won't have enough men at the rear. Henry, do you want to guide Robard's men to the way over the eastern ramparts, or will you join our attack? Very well, son. I know that you've had some experience of combat, but be careful. We still have a lot to talk about. God protect you.
Take cover from their arrows!
Excellent. Bernard already told me what's been happening, but I'd like to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. It's up to you what you consider important. It's somewhat at the centre of events, isn't it? And what's more, there's another stud farm there. Creating fear. Such great terror that you won't even squeak when they come to cut your throat. Never mind raise your hand against them. Fear that will root you to the spot, staring like a rabbit entranced by a stoat, waiting for the death blow to fall. Helpless to do anything about it. Exactly. It's not about the silver. It's about something else. I shouldn't think so. Everyone will be on the alert now, but the secluded dwellings are more vulnerable. There are few people in them. They're scattered everywhere, and we can't guard them all. There's always a groschen or two, some food and so on. Anyway, how much silver did they get from slaughtering those horses? Then bring him to me in Merhoyed, and I'll decide on his fate. And his name? But what if he's not there? He could have fled, maybe even to Kuttenberg. All right. Better go to Auschwitz then. Find this limping footpad and get the names of the others out of him. They have to face justice for what they did. I want to see them hang. That's true, but keep to the point. All right? But those cutthroats must know who he is too, right? And if they want to get revenge on him or silence him, you'd better hope they don't get to him before you. So drop everything and get on his trail. Find out what he knows and then report back to me. Did he tell you what happened? I'm going to our encampment at Merhoyed to oversee the security of the region. And did you find out where they went?
I don't think it would do any good for me to talk to Godwin. As I say, he's stubborn, and I have no power over him, unlike Hanush. Or try the local scribe. Is that so? I don't suppose he told you who did it? But now that I think of it, if he really was such a scoundrel, he surely must have been punished for something. There could be a record about him in the Rattay Black Chronicle, maybe even alongside the names of his cronies. It has to be worth trying. What's the matter, Henry? You didn't find him?
If only he took the same approach to all his spiritual endeavors. I see. That could definitely be a problem. Godwin is a principled and stubborn man. When it suits him, that is.
Only 200? That's a bit stingy, Hanush. You've started dropping your price, Hanush.
You heard, Hanush. We won't leave until we find something, so you'd better start searching. Good work, lad. Have you been to check it out? Do you know how many of them there are? Indeed. That was quite a feat, but I don't want you taking risks like that. Alone in a camp full of cutthroats. I don't like the sound of it. Damn it. That's all we need. Go on. Christ. You're a very capable man, Henry. You've shown more courage and skill than the rest of my men and Sir Hanush's combined. I really appreciate what you're doing. That's all right. Tell me, when you were at the camp, did you find out anything more? Their numbers, how well fortified they are.
All right, lad. Come back and report to me as soon as you find out anything else.
That's what I like to hear. Don't be so modest. You're the best man for the job. Because you're the only one I have available. So stop trying to wriggle out of it and get to work. Henry, there's no one I can send but you. And I need that information to avoid unnecessary casualties. Come back here when you've found out what I need to know. You'll be our eyes and ears, lad. Our success will depend on what you find out. Go, and get back here as soon as you can. Meanwhile, I'll muster my men. You say you saw Cumans there. It occurs to me that some of them have helmets with faceplates. If you were to wear one of those and some other Cuman armor, no one could tell you apart from them. Unless you speak, of course. But you can only get what you need from a Cuman. A dead one. Good question. The best thing would be to gain the trust of one of them. Or get some kind of disguise. And be quick. We've no time to spare. God be with you.
Henry, have you questioned that prisoner in Merhoyet yet? Then get on with it. What are you waiting for, boy? You know how the common folk love to tell tales. Truly? I heard some rumblings in the tavern on the way here, but I put it down to the villagers' lively imagination. All right, Hal. Go to the infirmary in the monastery. The monks may know what to do. If the plague really has taken hold there, we can't do much. But there's still hope it could be something else. Good God. So it is true. That's a good thing, surely. If this is indeed the plague, there's hardly anything else to be done. But we need to question that captive. We must find out more. That business with the fake groschen confirmed there's something fishy going on. Good luck, Henry. Take care.
How does it look there? Good God, I heard there's some pestilence there. Are you all right, Henry? That's terrible news, Hal. I wish there was something we could do to help them. Thank Christ. Some good news for a change. I see. Did he survive? What about the captive? Did you question him? That's interesting. And what's in the letter? What? Taking the law into their own hands? That's insurrection. What did you find out? And did you find anything? Ah, excuse me, I forgot. Give it here. Show it to me. I'm not surprised. I see. It's a clue, at least. Apparently, there's some German knight on the trail of the merchant Menhart. At the time the letter was written, the knight was in the tavern in Sasau asking about him. Seems to have some quarrel between them. This S person is threatening to finish with counterfeiting. The names of the sender and recipient aren't written there, just the initials S and T. You go to Sasau and find out what you can about this foreign knight. If he really is following Menhart, then he must know more than we do. Don't go yet. There's something I'd like to talk to you about. I understand. But the villagers decided to take justice into their own hands despite your appeals. That's not good. I suppose you're right. They've paid the price for their sins already. Anyway, that's not important now. Tell me what you got out of that captive. I don't know him. Excellent, Henry. We mustn't let this opportunity slip through our fingers. You go there and put pressure on this Menhart to tell us what he knows. God's mercy on them. No doubt. But I'm afraid there's little chance of rest now. How does it look in the village? I've no time now. Come to the upper castle during the day. It's too late now. Come tomorrow. We'll meet later at the upper castle.
I do. We once had a rather amusing encounter. Such a shame he's turned to robbing and pillaging. How did the mission go, anyway? Really? I'm surprised. Wulflin was a very good swordsman. Only in the meantime, Wulflin killed the whole escort and opened a side gate in the walls, where we were waiting. After that, it was all over in minutes. By chance, the lady of the castle, Ophelia, arrived and wanted to get inside. Her carriage got stuck in a snowdrift, and being chivalrous knights, we rescued her. It was winter, and the mountain passes were knee-deep in snow. There was no way to get reinforcements or supplies to us, so we were in a bit of a fix. There was a strong garrison at the castle, and they had more food than we. As soon as the gate closed behind the carriage, Lord Herstein came and gloated at us from the battlements. It happened before we went to Poland. I hired Wulflin as a mercenary to help deal with the royal matter. We were laying siege to Herstein Castle, because the lord there had been collecting tolls on the royal highway. Then Wulflin got the idea we would hold Lady Ophelia hostage in exchange for Lord Herstein's surrender along with his men. We even promised him we would let her go inside first. Of course, we expected it, and we had something up our sleeve. It was snowing heavily and the visibility was low, so they didn't notice it wasn't Lady Ophelia in the carriage, but Wulflin in disguise. I'm glad you did. How did Bernard feel about that? I think he was ready to bite Wulflin's head off. I don't suppose you stayed out of it, though. Well, that's something, at least. Good God. What about Sir Hans? You're probably right. My God. It's a fine state of affairs when even outlaws want to march under my banner. Shortly after, he returned to Poland, and I heard no word of him till recently. So tell me, what happened with him? It's a shame, though. If he were to put his skills to a good cause, he'd be a useful ally. And it's all someone else's fault. But going begging is an option, too. After all, look at me. These are the days we live in. Instead of tightening their belts, the impoverished nobles take to pillaging, and then they lament that they have no choice and it's all someone else's fault. True, but still, Wulflin knew a thing or two. It's a shame how he ended up. So what do you think of it all, Sir Divish? That makes two of us. We shall see. We shall see. Likewise. But I do feel he's the one with the best chance to put things right. For God's sake, Henry, you only just left. You'd need wings to make it there and back so quickly, so don't bother lying to me. Now get back there and do your job. Good. Tell me.
I see. What else? You're doing a good job, but you need to be careful. Have you found this Reeky fellow? Indeed. The whole affair's becoming ever more suspicious. Have you any further clues? I might have expected as much. Tell me the worst. Sacra. Anything else? All right. Come back and report to me as soon as you learn anything new. Put a little effort into it, lad. Talk to people and use your head. If you get the feeling they're hiding something, press them or trick them. You have to solve this. Do you understand? Not now, Henry. Wait until we get there. I know. You've shown you can fend for yourself, but do take care. You'll be travelling as Lord Capon's bodyguard. It's 3 days' ride from here, so unless you hit a snag along the way, you'll be back soon enough. Any questions? And don't get embroiled in anything else. Just hand over the letter, hear out his reply, and return. So, it looks like you're off on a mission. You'll be there to make sure nothing untoward happens to him. Keep your eyes peeled and your ears wide open. What Berghoff tells you is one thing, but what you see may be quite another. Very well. Berghoff is at Trotsky Castle. I think you'll find it quite an eye-opener. It's one of the finest castles in the land. I don't want to dampen your spirits, my boy, but watch out. These are evil times, and who knows what can happen along the way. Not to mention that Berghoff is no saint. Wenceslas also had another brother, the youngest, John of Görlitz, who was most probably poisoned. They seem like a hot-blooded lot. It's hard to keep up with their affairs, since they tend to change their alliances from one day to the next. But instead, they've been in a bitter armed feud for years, and now Sigismund's fallen out with Wenceslas. The Luxemburgs have ruled the Empire and Bohemia for almost 100 years now. Emperor Charles brought this land to prominence. When he was in power, things had never been so good. Wenceslas and Sigismund are his sons, but by different mothers. Jobst and Prokop are their cousins. They were entrusted with governing Moravia. But he really is the leader of the resistance against Sigismund these days. We'll just have to see how it all turns out. The cousin of King Wenceslas? He's the Margrave of Moravia. I admit I don't know what to make of him myself. Until recently he was allied with the League of Lords. For a time he even served Rupert of the Palatinate against the king. And now suddenly he's reversed his position. I don't know what led him to do it, and one can't help being suspicious. It's best to keep a watchful eye on him. Well, there's no straightforward answer to that question. He certainly makes a great hunting and drinking companion. You can't just abscond. You've seen for yourself what happens when he disappears for a few months. Better a bad but legitimate king than a bloody war over the throne. but he can be very fiery and impetuous when things don't go how he'd like them. He never had much of a head for high office. He finds it tiresome. But once a man's grasped the sceptre, it's hard to let it go again. Then they were allies for a while, betrayed Wenceslas and sided with Rupert of the Palatinate. But after Sigismund abducted Wenceslas, Prokop fomented a revolt against him, and Sigismund had him captured. Politics. Make of it what you will. I, for one, can't make head or tail of it most of the time. Jobst's brother, the king's cousin, he and Jobst warred over Moravian supremacy for years. The lords of the powerful houses, Heinrich of Rosenberg, Otto of Berghof, Heinrich of Radetz, and others. They're unhappy with the way their influence declined after Wenceslas surrounded himself with the lesser orders of nobility. But now it seems that Sigismund's behaviour is starting to rub them up the wrong way, so they may well be thinking twice. We'll see what Berghof has to say. They abducted the king years ago and made him bow to their will. They got away with it that time, and now they've joined forces with Sigismund and done it again. Sigismund is ambitious and capable. He might well make a better ruler than Wenceslas, but he's arrogant, and to our misfortune, brutal. And now this is how Sigismund repays his brother. There's no doubt about it. God does move in mysterious ways. Not long ago, he himself was held captive by the Hungarian nobility. They dislike him as much as some of the Czech and German noblemen do his brother Wenceslas. Ironically, Wenceslas joined forces with Jobst to liberate him. Some say it was due to the recklessness of the French knights, most of whom were mercilessly slaughtered. He's the king's younger brother and king of Hungary in his own right. 7 years ago, he led a crusade against the Turks and was defeated at Nicopolis. The prince-electors are dignitaries of the Holy Roman Empire who have the right to elect the king of the Romans, who would then be crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope. Rupert took the title for himself with the help of 3 other prince-electors, even though Wenceslas had already been appointed. So, now we have 2 kings of the Romans. Jobst sided with Sigismund for a while, but now he switched allegiance. He seems to do that quite a lot. Some of the nobility in the empire recognized Rupert's claim, but when he went to Rome to be crowned emperor, it turned into a fiasco. Now he's doing his utmost to get Wenceslas to acknowledge him, but so far without success. Rupert is the prince-elector of the Palatinate. The Liechtensteins are a powerful Austrian family, with estates in Austria and Moravia. Sir John sits on Jobst's council. Since the king's being held captive in Vienna, I suppose it makes sense to have a powerful Austrian house as allies. It could be very useful. Very well. Take the letter from Sir Hanush, and good luck, son. You have to kill a criminal to prove yourself to them. Huh. I don't much like the sound of it. That's excellent news. Did you find out any more? Good God above, that's another matter entirely. They don't let just anyone into the cloisters, and the abbot won't give up any of the novices. Secular law has no jurisdiction inside the monastery. But this is the second time that something untoward has happened there. First the counterfeiters, now this. I'd be glad to have someone take a look inside. What have you found out? If it's really the only way to get to him, then you'll have to do it. I'm sorry I can't be of much help. Sadly, my relations with the monastery aren't entirely congenial. You'll have to figure something out for yourself. A bit of meditation and learning would do you good. Far from it, lad. But I have confidence in your abilities. Don't kill him. Bring him to the bailiff in Rattay. He'll interrogate the man and give him a fair trial. Good luck, Henry. I'm sure you'll look great in a habit.
But, if it can prevent bloodshed, why the hell not? We may well come to some arrangement after all. My boy, you make promises in my name? That could turn out very badly for both of us, but I can't say yet what will become of him. You'd better run along. There you are. Millers usually know what's going on behind the scenes. Go there and talk to him. Good. I'd rather see you seeking out better company, but that can't be helped, than ask around the alehouses and inns, or at the Rathaus. Someone must have heard something. These things can't be entirely kept in the dark. I know I'm asking a lot of you, but I know of no one else who could help as much as you can now. What we want is for the crimps to take you for just another village lad they can lure into their gang.
Ah, criticizing your liege lord, are you? And what, in your opinion, should he do about it? Of course, Henry. Easy, lad. I'm only pulling your leg. You're quite right. The roads really aren't safe. Mostly due to one thing. Not an awful lot, unfortunately. Of course, Henry. Ah, the naivety of youth. Driving him out of the province was only the start. He left a lot of cutthroats behind, and they'll be sticking to their trade. What's more, as long as there's a war going on, problems like this will keep coming up. What do you want to know? You have a point, lad, but I'd like to tell you I talked to Kuno because I trust him. But actually my reasons are of a more pragmatic nature. My garrison is a shamble these days. I lost most of my men in Skalitz, and what I'm left with after Pribyslavitz is hardly enough even to guard Pigstein, let alone guarding the roads and patrolling the rest of the province. I simply don't have the men. That is, I didn't have the men. As it happens, you've come at just the right time. You see, Kuno owes me a favour, so he'll serve me free of charge. Go and report to him at his encampment. You'll ride with his band on patrols and make sure they don't get too disorderly. Yes, but that's not all. I told Kuno I'd send him a guide, but really what I need is for someone to keep a close eye on him and his men. Someone reliable, and I'd say you fit the part. Recently I asked an old acquaintance for help. Sir Kuno of Rickwald and his mercenary band. The men who ride with him are a rough lot, mostly former convicts, but they're as capable as any squad of soldiers. Good luck, Henry, and watch out for yourself. Excellent. He set up camp between Ratai and Ledechko. It's a good base for covering the province. He's certainly an entertaining companion, but as a mercenary, well, let's just say he has his own particular approach to certain matters. Oh, it's nothing too bad, just that now and again he needs reminding not to step over the line. He's the last baron of the House of Rickwald, which became impoverished, so he took to the mercenary trade, like many poor noblemen do, unless they become robbers, which often isn't all that different. I did him quite a big service, actually. I saved him from the hangman. But one thing I can tell you, he seems to have taken inspiration from me. A lot of his men had their own encounters with the executioner too. You should ask him. You'll be spending quite a while riding together, so it'll help pass the time. Greetings, Henry. I hear you won the Ratai tourney. Well done, lad. God be with you, Henry. Congratulations on winning the tournament. I'm proud of you. Good to see you, lad. Sir Hanush told me you won his tourney. Good job, Henry. Sure. Christ, it seems Pribyslavitz wasn't the end of it. Toth must have left some of his cronies behind. Unscrupulous beast. Cruelty and malevolence. I challenge you to face me in a duel, defend your honour. Antinomious wretch. Well, that's nice. Signed, Hagen Zul. Show it to me. Although I think I already know what it will say. I know that coat of arms, unfortunately. It's the House of Zul. As I expected, old grievances coming back to haunt me. Henry, my boy, honour is a splendid thing, and it should be held in high regard. But in time you'll learn that some matters are not so straightforward. That's not honour, but an abuse of honour. Commonplace opportunism. I don't blame him for trying, but I'm not such a fool as to play by his rules. Hagen, meanwhile, was fighting in the Margraviate Wars in Moravia, and elsewhere as a mercenary. Which of us do you think would win a duel? Yes, like this one. The only reason Hagen is challenging me now is that he has a marked advantage. I've served as the royal hetman for the last 15 years and become a courtier. Apparently he still hopes I will agree to this kind of outmoded solution to disputes. That's a long story. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But maybe there's something else behind this challenge. Maybe it's coin he's after. Who knows? I'm sure you will, Henry. You and Kuno's band will just have to deal with Hagen and prevent further mayhem. The longer he's marauding around these parts, the greater the chances that I'll finally have to succumb to his conditions. So, I hanged the head of the family, razed their castle to the ground, and confiscated their property. True. All right, in a nutshell. Several years ago, I had to resolve a bloody feud between the Zuls and another family. The Zuls were clearly in the wrong, but refused to accept my ruling. Ever since then, they've had it in for me, not surprisingly. Yes, although in retrospect it might seem excessively harsh. And it doesn't help that the other family is related to mine. If I'd known what I know today, I'd have been a lot more circumspect. Since the Zul family was defying the king, we were obliged to punish them. Harshly, as the circumstances demanded. Very well. It began in the first year of King Wenceslas's reign. He sent me to resolve a dispute between the Zuls and a neighbouring house. For one thing, the king didn't use it to strengthen his position. On the contrary, he took less and less interest in such affairs. Would it were that simple, lad. I was young and didn't realise the repercussions it would bring. His Majesty's position was a little shaky after his coronation. So a decision was made in the royal court to take radical action against any dissent in the kingdom. The head of the family, Hagen's father, was hanged, their castle razed to the ground and their property confiscated, because he realised things would eventually sort themselves out. He promoted me to royal hetman, leaving him to pursue other interests. Secondly, my actions essentially created another band of robbers. When you strip a nobleman of his property, you can't expect him to take to begging. And thirdly, I wasn't aware at the time that the other party to the dispute was distantly related to me. Naturally, that made it look like I was acting in self-interest. It concerned land boundaries. The Zuls had refused to accept the ruling of the land court. Finally, some good news. Tell me all about it. What do you mean? What happened? God almighty. Oh, Christ have mercy. What about the rest? God above, Henry! That was damned reckless. Frankly, I was half expecting it. What do you mean? Tell me, how did you persuade Kuno to stay on our side? I'm quite certain he gave it some thought. Considering I don't pay him a single groschen, probably quite a lot of thought. So, how did you persuade him? Well, you did your best. What about Kuno's company? Good heavens! How on earth did you get out of it alive? I half expected that. At least Hagen let you go. I expect he gave you some message for me. You what? Are you mad? Don't fret over it, Henry. The main thing is you're safe and sound. At least there's a silver lining. I'll draft a letter to Hagen explaining the situation. I'm sure he'll drop his feud in exchange for his brother's freedom. Hagen's brother, Nicholas Zul, was taken captive by the Lord of Kolditz. His messenger came to me today. He wanted to ask me, as the royal hetman, what he should do with him. I'll have to advise him to let Nicholas go, which won't be good news for the Lord of Duba, whose estates he'll surely pounce on. The Zuls were fighting in Moravia on the side of Prokop of Luxembourg, which makes them possible allies against Sigismund. Considering everything that's going on, no one will doubt the wisdom of my decision. I have no doubt of it. The Zuls are a close family. They've little left but each other after what happened to them. Yes and no. Sir Andrew of Duba has been my ally for years. Once he finds out what happened, that'll be the end of our alliance. In the end, this whole affair has cost me more than I ever expected. Someone else will do that, Henry. That you have. So, Hagen Zul is dead, and you had that much faith in yourself. You behaved honourably. You were lucky. You can't always rely on people to keep a cool head. And his company? I agree, but not everyone has the same sense of honour, so watch that someone doesn't take advantage of yours. I'm not sure what I'd do in that situation either. You did the right thing, Henry. I see I didn't overestimate you when I gave you this task. Very often, having the right intelligence is more important than superior numbers on the battlefield. What? Look here, Henry, I know you're not a pauper, but Hagen must have offered Kuno quite a pile of coin. How could you match that? Simply. Knowing Kuno, I'd say it would be simpler to persuade the devil to go to church on Sunday. Anyway, you deserve a reward for your efforts, and thank you, Henry. Once again, I'm beholden to you. I don't know what I'd do without you. Of course. That hadn't crossed my mind. That's very generous of you to pay him out of your own purse. Have no fear, I will reimburse you. One day, when more beneficial conditions prevail. As you wish, lad. The main thing is you resolve the matter. Good. That's good news, Henry. That's how it should be. I'm sorry to hear that. Such is a mercenary's life. May they rest in peace. Any losses on our side? Kuno's men? How did they fare? Oh my God! Then I thank the Lord you were spared. Damn it, that's not good. Don't be so modest, lad. Since that catastrophe at Skalitz, I don't have many people left that I can rely on. True enough. I lost a lot of good men in Skalitz. I'm glad I still have you, at least. Best go and rest now. Hagen-Zoul fell. You must have missed that. And the battle turned in our favour. I really don't know. But I'm sure what remains of the company returned to the encampment. You can go and see them yourself. You ran? And I thought you were off somewhere celebrating. Somewhat different news arrived at Pirkstein. I see. That explains a lot. Some time ago I sent a patrol there and they never returned. Thanks for checking it out, Henry. I'll muster some men and send them there. They'll deal with that monster, never fear. I sent a patrol there some time ago, and they never returned. That was a brave deed, Henry. Thank you. I see you've been doing an excellent job in my service. That's sad news. May the good Lord grant them rest. And God bless you, Henry. Thank you for the service you've done. I see. What is it, Henry? Maybe, if he knows we know what's going on, he'll think twice about accepting Hagen's offer. Of course he is. Who wouldn't be? Just as long as it doesn't stop him from doing the job. Do that. And watch out for yourself, Henry. Things are getting tricky. If Kuno decides to turn coat, there's not much we can do to stop him. All you can do is appeal to his better nature. What do you need, son? What do you need, Henry? I'm sorry, Henry, but I can't take in everyone from Skalitz who has nowhere to go. All right. You must tell me about it sometime. All right. Run along now. I heard something about this business with Johanka. You were there for it. As for your request, it's good of you to want to help. I'd like to help, but it's just not possible. I understand, lad, but there's a lot of people like that. Just look at Ratai. I'm glad you do. Let them come after the harvest. Let him come after the harvest.